You're in your 60s, you've been hitting the gym with discipline, and you've got the logbook to prove it. But when you step out of the shower and catch your reflection, you see the same person you did 12 months ago. You show up, you do the work. You're not one of those New Year's resolution people who fades out by February. You've been consistent. 3 sessions a week, every week for a full year, maybe more. You track the weights. You push for that extra rep. You feel that satisfying soreness the next day that tells you something happened. And yet, the mirror hasn't budged. Your arms look the same. The midsection is still soft, and you're still asking your partner to open that stubborn pickle jar. I'm not about to tell you to simply lift heavier or try harder, because that's clearly not the missing link. The problem is something you're not doing before you even wrap your hand around the barbell. It's the single reason your body has been silently filing all those workouts under irrelevant and then promptly forgetting them. But before I reveal the fix, I need to show you something that proves it's not your age that's failing you. Because if I just opened with, your muscles can still grow, even now, I know you'd be skeptical. You've probably heard that line before from someone selling a supplement. So, let's let the data do the talking. We're going to look at one of the most extraordinary experiments ever conducted on aging human tissue. In 1990, a research team entered a nursing home in Boston. They weren't looking for elite athletes. They found 10 participants, but these weren't spry 60-year-olds. These were frail individuals, averaging 90 years old. Some used canes, some relied on walkers. Frankly, they were the kind of people you'd expect to see in a chair, not lifting a barbell. For 8 weeks, 3 times a week, these researchers had them do high-intensity leg resistance training. We're talking real weight, real exertion. Not some gentle calisthenics you'd see in a senior center brochure. Actual, grueling work. When the 8 weeks were up, the data came back, and it was jaw-dropping. Their leg strength had increased by an average of 174%, not 17%, 174%. Their actual muscle area, the physical tissue measured on a scan, had grown by 9%, and their walking speed, the crucial metric that predicts fall risk, improved by a staggering 48%. The switch was never broken. It was just waiting for a bigger push. That result wasn't a fluke. Around the same period, researchers were doing similar studies on healthy men in their 60s, using biopsy needles to look directly at the muscle fibers, and they kept finding the same truth. When you give an aging muscle a legitimate mechanical challenge, it responds. It actually grows new fiber. It's not just the brain learning to coordinate the muscle better. The tissue itself is rebuilding. Let that sink in. The biological machinery that builds muscle, the same one that worked when you were 20, is still there. It's still functional. So, what changed? It's not the machine. It's the key that turns it on. And here's the paradox that explains your frustration. Frail 90-year-olds can gain 174% strength, but a healthy 63-year-old can train for a year and see almost nothing. That doesn't add up. The reason you're not seeing results isn't that your muscle is dead. It's that your workout, the signal you're sending, isn't reaching the part of the machinery that triggers growth. It's like trying to unlock a door, but the key doesn't fit the way it used to. There's a specific fix for this, and it's rarely explained to the people who need it most. To understand the fix, we need to look at what's actually happening inside your muscle right now. Your muscle isn't a static lump of tissue. It's a dynamic battlefield of building and breakdown, happening every second of every day. Think of it like a construction site. You've got a demolition crew constantly tearing down old, damaged proteins and a construction crew building new ones. In a healthy young adult, those two crews work at roughly the same pace. You maintain equilibrium. You don't get bigger, you don't get smaller. What a hard workout does is send an urgent signal to the foreman. We need more capacity, increase shifts, build a bigger warehouse. This signal comes from the mechanical stress of heavy lifting. The fibers get microscopically damaged, and the body's response, if everything is working right, is to rebuild them thicker and stronger. Think of it as a bank account. Every day you have a deposit, muscle protein synthesis, and a withdrawal, muscle protein breakdown. Most days, it's a wash. A weight training session supercharges both sides. It opens the door for a massive deposit, but it also causes damage, a withdrawal. Whether you end up with more muscle or less depends entirely on if the deposit is bigger than the withdrawal. and the deposit can only be as big as the raw materials you have available. Here's the plot twist. The construction crew doesn't work for free, and they won't show up just because you rang the bell. They need building materials. Specifically, they need amino acids, the bricks and mortar of protein, sitting right there in the bloodstream at the exact moment the order comes in. If the materials aren't there, the foreman can blow the whistle all day long. The workers just stand around with their hands in their pockets. Nothing gets built. Now, here's the critical change that happens as we age, the one no one warns you about. In a younger person, the foreman is easy to satisfy. A relatively small amount of protein in the bloodstream, about 20 to 25 grams in a meal, is enough to wake up the whole crew. It's like flipping a light switch. Dim below, bright above. But in an older muscle, that switch changes. It gets harder to flip. Scientists call this anabolic resistance. You've been ringing the bell, but the loading dock has been empty. What this means in plain English is that an older muscle needs a bigger dose of the same signal to trigger the same amount of building. It's a higher price of admission, not a broken switch, just a switch that needs a stronger push. This is the core of your problem. You've been training exactly like the magazines tell you to. You push hard, you go home. Maybe you have a protein shake. Maybe you just eat a normal dinner, a dinner that would have been perfect for building muscle when you were 30. But now, that same reasonable dinner is now insufficient. You're ringing the bell loud and clear. The foreman hears it, but you're not dropping enough materials on the loading dock for the crew to actually build anything. The fuel isn't reaching the threshold required to convert that workout signal into new tissue. Let me show you how we know this. The story of this discovery is just as fascinating as the fact itself. For a long time, scientists studying aging noticed something weird. If you gave an older adult a moderate dose of protein, the kind a nutritionist would call adequate, their muscle protein synthesis barely budged. If you gave that same dose to a 20-year-old, the muscle-building machinery lit up like a Christmas tree. Some researchers wondered, is the aging muscle just broken? Did it permanently downgrade? But then, someone had a simple, brilliant idea. What if we just give them more? And the results changed everything. When older adults were given a bigger dose of protein, not triple, just meaningfully more, their muscle protein synthesis jumped up to levels almost identical to those younger subjects. The machinery wasn't broken. It just had a higher price of admission. One study, a classic in this field, had older men do leg exercises. Then they gave them different amounts of whey protein. None, 10 grams, 20 grams, and 40 grams. At rest, 20 grams was okay. But after exercise, the response kept climbing with more protein. The 40-gram dose produced a much bigger increase in muscle building than the 20-gram dose did. A separate team, researching men in their late 60s, found the same pattern. About 40 grams of protein drove a much stronger building response than the smaller standard serving sizes. So, let's get to the number you actually need to remember. For a younger adult, 20 to 25 grams of high-quality protein in one sitting is usually enough to maximize the muscle-building switch. For an adult over 60, that same switch needs something closer to 35 to 40 grams. But there's an even smaller, more specific detail, a secret ingredient, a single amino acid called leucine. Think of leucine as the ignition key for the whole protein-building pathway. It binds to a specific sensor inside the muscle cell, a foreman named mTOR. No leucine, no foreman activation, no green light. The building materials could be piled up to the ceiling, but without the foreman giving the order, nothing happens. Here's the kicker. For years, nutrition research assumed all protein was created equal. Just count the grams. Then researchers started isolating individual amino acids to test them. When they gave a subject a full cocktail of amino acids, but left the leucine out, the muscle-building response stayed muted. The moment they put the leucine back in without changing anything else, the response came roaring back. That's the leucine threshold. In a younger person, it's about 2.5 grams per meal. In an older adult, the research puts it closer to 3 grams. Some studies suggest you need even more to fully overcome that resistance. Whey protein is one of the most leucine-dense foods there is. About 10–12% of its weight is leucine. But it's not the only way to get there. Eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, chicken, fish, and lean beef all carry it. You just usually need a slightly bigger portion. Now, why does this anabolic resistance even exist? It's not just biology being stubborn. There are three main toll booths on the road, from your mouth to your muscle. First, blood flow to muscle tissue tends to decline slightly with age. That means it's harder to deliver the amino acids to the site. Second, there's splanchnic retention. A lot of the protein you eat gets pulled aside by your gut and liver before it ever hits your bloodstream, and that toll gets bigger as we age. Third, the cellular signaling pathway. That foreman, mTOR, becomes less sensitive. It's partly related to the low-grade inflammation that creeps up over the decades. Stacker those three together, and you get the research results. The same dose of protein produces a much smaller response in a 65-year-old than it did in that same person at 25. The muscle isn't dead. The delivery system just has 3 extra toll booths. Let's pause for a second, because it's time to address the real stakes here. This is about more than a mirror. It's about whether you can carry your own groceries at 80, whether you can get up off the floor without using your hands, or what happens if you fall. Muscle mass starts declining in your 40s, at about 3 to 8% per decade. That loss accelerates once you hit 60. By your 80s, you could have lost half the muscle you had in your prime. And it's not just a uniform shrinking. The fast twitch fibers, the ones responsible for power and catching yourself when you trip, shrink faster than the slower endurance fibers. Think about that split second when you stumble on a curb. You don't have time to plan a graceful recovery. You need a sudden, explosive contraction from those fast twitch fibers. That's why falls become so much more dangerous as you age. It's not clumsiness. It's biology. The specific fibers that save you are the ones aging targets hardest. World weightlifting records tell the same story. The maximum strength in those lifts drops roughly 30% for men and 50% for women between the ages of 30 and 60. It's a stark illustration of how much capacity erodes if you're not actively fighting it. When you look in the mirror and see nothing, you're not just missing out on a beach body, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to independence well into your 90s. The other leads to the frailty those Boston researchers were working against. The good news? The nursing home study proves the road to independence is still open to you. The only question is whether the fuel is on site when the signal goes out. So, let's get concrete. Let's talk about what you need to change, starting with your very next workout. You need to make absolutely sure that a substantial, leucine-rich dose of protein is in your system around the time of your workout, not vaguely over the course of the day. Specifically close to the training, we're talking 35 to 40 grams of high-quality protein, ideally carrying 3 to 4 grams of leucine. Eaten before or shortly after you train. Why before the workout, not just after? Because digestion isn't instant. If you wait until you're done training to eat, it takes 30 to 60 minutes for those amino acids to actually hit your bloodstream. Meanwhile, your workout created a window of heightened sensitivity right now. You want those materials arriving right when the foreman blows the whistle. Eating a large, leucine-rich dose before you train ensures that by the time you're finishing your last set, the amino acids are already there, ready to be used. It's about timing delivery so the material arrives on time, not late. What does this actually look like on a plate or in a shaker cup? A scoop and a half of a typical whey protein isolate gets you there. If you prefer solid food, 3 to 4 whole eggs plus a serving of Greek yogurt works. A decent-sized chicken breast, about 6 to 7 ounces. A couple of cups of cottage cheese. Now, a quick note on body size. 35 to 40 grams is a good general target. If you're a smaller woman in her 60s, you might land closer to the lower end. If you're a larger man, you might lean toward the higher end. A rough guide is half a gram of protein per kilogram of body weight per meal. But that usually lands right back in that 35 to 40 gram zone anyway. You don't need a nutritionist spreadsheet. You just need to stop treating this one meal like every other meal of the day. What if you're not a big meat or dairy eater? It's still doable. It just takes slightly larger portions of plant-based foods, or stacking a couple of them together. A large serving of tofu or tempeh paired with soy or pea protein isolate gets you there. Soy protein has a leucine profile very close to animal sources. Pea protein works too. You just need a slightly bigger scoop. The muscle doesn't care where the leucine came from. It only cares that it showed up in the right amount. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. I've tried protein shakes before. I didn't notice a difference. Here's the thing. What did that shake actually contain, and when did you drink it? A lot of the pre-made shakes at the store carry 15 to 20 grams of protein. That's great for a 25-year-old, but it's quietly insufficient for you. Or maybe the shake was fine, but you drank it 2 hours after the workout on the drive home, way past the window where it could do the most good. Those small gaps are exactly why people conclude nutrition doesn't matter. And let's bust a myth right now. I eat plenty of protein throughout the day. Look, total daily protein matters, but the research is clear that the most powerful trigger for muscle building isn't just the total by midnight. It's whether any single meal actually clears that threshold. If you spread 90 grams of protein evenly across 3 meals, 30 here, 30 there, 30 at dinner, you may never clear that 35 to 40 gram doorway. Every meal stays just under the threshold. It's not about how much you eat in a day. It's about whether you eat enough at once. It's like trying to open a door that needs a hard shove by pushing gently 3 times. The door doesn't care about the cumulative effort. It cares about whether any one push was hard enough. And this is the most common way people sabotage a year of otherwise perfect training. Now, I need to address those voices online who say, nutrient timing is a myth. All that matters is your total daily protein. For a 25-year-old, that's true. Younger muscle is so forgiving that a well-fed day evens things out, but that argument was built on studies of younger adults. Once you introduce the threshold effect, that advice collapses. If your muscle needs a large dose just to flip the switch, timing isn't a minor optimization. It's the difference between flipping the switch or not. The anabolic window isn't a myth for you. It matters far more at 65 than it does at 25. However, I need to be brutally honest here. Protein timing isn't magic. It won't fix a bad workout. You can eat the perfect 40 grams of leucine-rich protein around a workout that's too easy, and you still won't build muscle. The mechanical signal, real progressively harder resistance, is what tells the body to grow. The protein is the materials. The training is the order. You have to do the hard work. It means real compound movements. Squat, hip hinge, push, pull. Load them heavy enough that the last reps are a genuine struggle. Do that 2 to 3 times a week, and you have to get stronger. You can't stay comfortable. Progressive overload is non-negotiable. You've had the training locked down. You just didn't know the other half existed. Now you do. There are other pieces to this puzzle. Creatine, for example, has been shown to help older adults gain a bit more strength and mass from training. It's not the main event, but it's a worthwhile addition once the foundation is in place. Sleep matters. Vitamin D status matters. And if you have kidney disease or another condition where high protein is an issue, please talk to a doctor first. But for a healthy adult, 35 to 40 grams per meal is well within a safe range. Let's go back to that bathroom mirror one last time. You are not broken. Your muscles are not finished. If they could respond in those 90-year-olds in the Boston nursing home, they can respond in you. You did the hard part. You stayed consistent. You put in the discipline. You just missed one small adjustment, putting the materials on the dock. You've been ringing the bell. Now, you need to leave something on the loading dock for the crew to build with. Think about what's on the other side of this. It's not just a better mirror. It's playing with your grandkids. It's carrying your own suitcase. It's the specific strength it takes to catch yourself on a wet sidewalk. That's what the 48% walking speed gain gave those residents. Not a trophy, but a longer, independent life. So here's what changes. Starting with your next session, make sure the meal nearest to your workout is substantial. 35 to 40 grams of real protein with leucine doing the heavy lifting. Do that consistently alongside training that demands a little more of you over time. You are giving your body every piece of information it needs to build itself back stronger. The switch was never broken. It was just waiting for you to push hard enough to flip it. Thanks for watching Winds of Thought. If you found this valuable, please hit that like button. It helps others find this information too.